In this video, you'll see a full character anatomy drawing process, from pose and musculature to face variations, hair drawing and scar ideation. I'm Ryan, a lecturer in concept art at the University for the Creative Arts, and I'm going to be talking you through how I'm designing Croia, the main character of my Gaelic-inspired dark fantasy design project. So, the elevator pitch for this design is Croia Briarheart is a Gaelic warrior lordess, princess of sorts, of the Briarheart clan with a failing heart, daughter of a demi-fae and unconsenting recipient of her twin's heart transplant. Struggling to control unstable fae powers and tormented by guilt, she seeks to avenge her sister and return her from the clutches of an evil fae spirit. Now, the main challenge here is trying to convey through the pose and anatomy a combination of feminine grace and strength without adding too many masculine features, detracting from the initial visual read. This means balancing out the feminine characteristics, such as the hips and legs, with the masculine characteristics, such as the shoulders, neck, and arms. For this, it is extremely helpful to look at references such as female athletes and strong women, like there are the strong men competitions, the female version of that, to see how the musculature sits on their frame while retaining a sense of femininity. Don't be afraid to erase and redraw, changing pose and anatomy freely. All we want is the design, the visual communication at the end. Your design process will speed up dramatically once you become comfortable with erasing, scrapping it off, and moving on. Don't just leave your sketch as it is. Take them to the next level with a simple bit of presentation, blocking in a grey wash to pop the figures out from the page, making sure that they sit on a perspective-aligned ground plane and distorting that silhouette into a cast shadow on the ground. To further emphasize the designs, you can drop contrasting strips or shapes behind them, unifying them across the page. To provide context to your design, especially in such an early stage, it's good to include a small elevator pitch about them. Not too wordy, just distilling the key information down for the viewer or client to understand your vision. I am indicating as well a key selling point of the design by adding in a magical glow to the arm and heart scar, the source of her fey powers, creating a variety of choices with the hue saturation adjustment layer in combination with a mask. Very quick and effective for color options. Always spend some time analysing your designs at these in-between stages, using a red note path to objectively evaluate them, choosing the best parts that fit the brief and discarding the weaker elements. Here, I am redrawing the pose and anatomy, pulling in the areas that I chose from the other designs. Part of the reason for focusing on the character's anatomy and pose is to create a sort of actress or actor for the role, a base of which we can dress and costume on top. For a lot of people, working in stages like this can really free up your mental resources, allowing you to fully focus on the task at hand. Now I have taken a chunk of the character's torso and duplicated them across the page, allowing me to focus on one specific element of the design, the heart scar. This is an integral part of the character, bridging lore and gameplay. Furthermore, it is a powerful narrative and thematic element, something I want to push throughout this intellectual property, a sense of loss, a broken symmetry, which can be reinforced when I introduce other elements such as the twin and the way the world is structured. When designing anatomical features such as scarring or gore, you will need to become comfortable searching for uncomfortable or strange references such as surgery marks or injuries. Ideally, use Pinterest for these kinds of images, as it will have already been screened for offensive imagery. Here I am testing out, with a red note pass, the best ways to visually communicate the flow of magical fey energy, utilizing Celtic knot patterns in the form of tattoos or scarring to show this. When possible, find ways to connect your lore, referencing, and gameplay aspects with the unifying elements such as this. Once again, some simple presentation makes a big difference in how the work is perceived. Adding in a gradient and black bar at the bottom for relevant information, such as the project name, design stage, and artist name, as well as your contact information, is ideal. Next, using a 3D head as a base to ensure accurate proportions, I design out the facial features of the character, paying careful attention to how small angle differences change the emotion or personality of the character that I'm designing. The challenge here was to communicate a sense of determined despair within the character, strong and wise, yet thrust into a world of danger and uncertainty. I wanted an air of dignified melancholy, a struggler trudging on despite the horrors that assail them. I, of course, took subconscious inspiration from Berserk while drawing, trying to imbue even just 1% of that into the character. Quite a few of the face options here appeared way too thin, gaunt, or mature. For the main character of a project like this, I wanted to balance wide audience appeal with the artistic vision of the world, imbuing elements into the face and expression that contain traces of their experiences or lore. Therefore, I started to lean towards a feminine face, reinforced by a slightly stronger, more masculine jaw with a determined frown, wide eyes signifying a steeled horror, and terse lips to show tension. Eye bags pulled in a sense of fatigue, ensuring not too many strokes are placed on the cheeks or forehead, as this will rapidly age the character. One major area to balance out for this character was the chin and neck, as squaring off or thickening these areas can very quickly defeminize the features. So a subtle balance needed to be struck between these areas. For the hair, I researched red-haired individuals, bringing in some Nordic or Viking inspiration, as well as punk, to add a warlike edge to this warrior lordess character, testing out different hair types: curly, wavy, straight, wet, long, short, shaved, braided, etc., to see what fit the mood of the character as well as the chosen face. Hair drastically changes the perception of a character and has an intrinsic relationship with the facial features. I further developed the effects of the heart transplant and Fey powers through scar patterns moving across the chest and into the face and neck. I tried out different ideas, testing to see what fit the character and their background the most, keeping in mind not to disfigure the character too greatly or obscure key features, as this will impact audience perception. We still want her to be the protagonist, and pushing heavy disfigurement could very easily slip into a villainous category, which is also why I altered the pose earlier in the design process, as it was becoming too intimidating for a determined twin sister trying to rescue their other half, and verged into a relentless slayer. I wanted to instead balance these two directions, showing a pained grasp on these new powers and a fatigued determination in her quest. To ensure a solid base for designing, and this project being relatively grounded and realistic in treatment, I then photographed several pose references and traced over to achieve the anatomical base I required to costume over. This can quickly give a non-entertaining result, as we are constraining ourselves to natural human proportions. So to update this, we can edit the head length to be more heroic in proportions, adjusting the anatomy to fit the body explorations I conducted before. I'm also altering the pose further to reinforce the allure of the character, to show their steadfast nature and stronger grasp over these new powers without being too intimidating or villainous, as I mentioned before. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Also, if you want any questions answered, please feel free to write them down below.